Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Pete. And when you come back from being on the road, I know we always have a lot of stuff to cover. So I think we're going to jump right in with some news.
Yeah. So we got a packed news episode here. We got something for everyone this time, I think. A little bit of HCM, a little bit of payroll, global EOR, some benefits, some other stuff. So yeah, I thought we could get through this. And I was just going to say, I've tracked this market now for more than a decade, but definitely very closely as an analyst for a decade. I can't remember a time when there was so much to digest. So it's coming faster and faster than ever. And I'm sure that's AI, right, helping with that. But it means we're probably going to have more news episodes than maybe we've been doing them kind of quarterly or maybe every few months. We might have to do one every month, Julie, I think, to keep up.
Well, let's do it. And since they're easily labeled, some folks are looking for that. And then some folks just want to hit it a little bit less often. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. I want to start off with this first one. I don't know if you saw this. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but Time Magazine, Time.com had the top, I think it was 250 work tech companies in 2026. I don't know if you saw this. Did you get a chance to check that out?
I did. In fact, I was just perusing it for certain company names just to see who made the list that might be on our normal talking points, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of the characters that we talk about here, right? Workday, Deel, UKG, Prism, lots of the companies that you would probably know, Okta, some of the stuff you use in your work.
ServiceNow.
Yeah, ServiceNow. But what I thought was interesting, though, Julie, is in the methodology, they looked at 5,000 companies, right, through desk research, which means online, right? Online application forms and collaborations, as well as other data and market intelligence companies. KPIs were evaluated to determine the top work tech companies from thousands of companies. The evaluation looked at, here we go, financial strength, as well as revenue, funding, market cap, annual reports, company websites, various different information. But also the evaluation looked at how the evaluation of these industries impact. So I thought that was interesting. There's a bit that goes into that as well. So just a little bit different thing. Normally you kind of see, best employers is my point. Yeah. This was a little bit more into the impact that they're making and how they're growing or behaving, I guess, in the community. So
yeah, and a lot of that was on, kind of the embracing of integrated AI, which I found interesting. And I know you're going to post the link in our show notes, but it wasn't always the employer of record, right? It was just a wide variety of, different niche areas in addition to core areas that were supported, and not even always. It didn't feel like the number one cloud software group is not a recognized name in the HR tech stack space for sure, right? So,
but apparently very forward with AI in this write-up of why they were number one. So
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
Interesting.
Cool.
Any surprises here? Did you see any companies you didn't expect to see on here, Julie?
No, actually, but I did. It's a big list, so the ones that you would expect to see, the ADP, ServiceNow's, the Workday's, Oracle in there.
2 EWAs were in there, Pay Active, Daily Pay.
Yep. Some of you got into the smaller. You get into a lot of the talent guys were in there. Yeah. Benefit Focus is some benefits guys. So it was really just this broad domain list that was kind of cool to think about from a different lens.
Well, anyway, so fun to start off with. Yeah, check that out. The interesting composite scores there of how they came up with this. So take a look. Maybe it's some folks that you've not heard of. I thought it was nice that it was not just the big players. It was also some of the little guys were in there too, Julie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
Nice to see people getting recognized for, what they're building and how they're impacting the community. So very good. Okay. Let's like I said, I teased in the beginning, Julie, we had something for everyone, right? So let's start off in the HCM lane. And I know you got some news over there too, but I got a couple of big things that I think we ought to talk about. So the first one is that isolved has a new CEO, Michael Haskey. I don't know if you're familiar with Michael. We've got to meet him as analysts. I've known him over the years from his time at ADP, as well as probably more notably as I believe he was president and chief operating officer at Paylocity and helped with some of the scale over there, as well as paychecks younger in his career. So
he's been around, let's say.
Yeah.
He's been around the block.
Yeah. Perfect addition, I think. And I've been isolved's a client of mine. They've been a client for a long time. I've worked with them very closely. I always, even before that, as a researcher, when I was with Nelson Hall and I was studying isolved when they were much younger, years ago, I always thought very highly of their C-suite. I thought they had a very strong C-suite with Mark Duffel and James Norwood and the team over there. And so when those guys began to retire and move off, I was excited to see what they would do next. And I think Michael's a great addition. So really, really excited to see it. Now, Michael's first move, right? Very, very ambitious and also very, I think, going where the ball is. They are transitioning isolved into a workforce capital management category, right? Creating their own category of platform. And that is heavily AI and agentic driven. And so you can see here some of the first pieces that they've put out of that is a new partnership with Anthropic, which means Claude, and a connector whereby you can actually act upon various different use cases from an HR perspective and a workforce perspective inside of Claude, touching through MCP and integration over to the isolved platform. So very much what I think you're going to see more of, and we're going to talk about more of here in the news with some of their peers, is that connectivity and interoperability between your AI platforms where people are beginning to do more work and the HR platform, which means we're kind of leaning into that sort of headless world, Julie, of does it matter where the where it ends up? It only matters that I get the answer that I need or the data that I need or the transaction that I need. So very interesting move here. And I think very bold, but I want to pause there and get your thoughts on this category of workforce capital management, and then this new sort of convergence of HR into AI tools, kind of opposite of maybe AI tools coming into the HR platform.
Yeah, well, first on the kind of category title of workforce capital management, or WCM, I guess that would be. I think we're ripe for something. After all, we've gone from the personnel system to HRIT to HRIS to HCM, like to a lot of WFMs out there, and so it feels like why not, right? We'll see if that sticks. The thing that also caught my attention is how much more we're hearing about Claude, and especially as they launch co-work, right? And how the inroads that is making into workplace AI. And initially, early on, it was Gemini, right? That was supposedly had the advantage. They do a lot with the talent D side of the house. And so there's also underlying this, I feel like this little battle, of what can I do with Copilot, and then who's maturing the most quickly, which doesn't mean that others won't catch up. But, I see an awful lot of Claude and co-work being a key driver right now for speed and some pretty great outcomes, honestly, in great format and kind of usable and polished looking stuff that others are still a little bit behind on.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I think it's just the same thing we've been seeing for many years now, right? Bringing bringing HR in context with work, right? And bringing it where the work is happening, and work is now happening in places like Claude, right? And in OpenAI and in other solutions. So yeah, very indicative of what I think you're going to see. And look, I think we've been talking about total talent management for many years and blended workforces. This is very much now a blended workforce, right? Humans and agents. And, you're going to have some employees and humans that are part-time and some that are full-time and some that are contract and some that are not. So I think you're going to have a very mixed organization that you need to manage. And that workforce capital makes a lot of sense, I think. So
yeah, and hey, listen, one more thought on that is, practitioners don't miss the fact that this is a system of record that is building and expanding its AI agent workforce and capabilities. So, early on, tapping into what your own strategic platform is doing is oftentimes the fastest way to get anywhere. And, that might have been just features and functionality initially, but now we're seeing the platforms and the systems of record, the things you already invest in, kind of race also to get, more faster and get to outcomes. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So moving along, going over to HiBob, right?
Yes.
A similar HCM sort of construct here happening over at HiBob. They have introduced or brought really their people intelligence over to the Slack bot. So think Slack, right? Where a lot of work goes on. I know a lot of organizations that live on Slack. I use Slack actually a lot with some of my clients. They've really, again, through MCP, through Model Context Protocol, think of MCP, by the way, as it's interoperability for AI to talk to other AI or AI to talk to other systems. So think of it like an API for artificial intelligence. Means that you now have HiBob basically at your fingers inside of Slack, right? So here again, in the flow of work, you're bringing that conversational experience to HiBob's their platform, and giving, both your HR leaders, your admins, as well as your frontline managers and employees the access to these capabilities across a number of use cases. So think onboarding, or maybe benefits administration, or benefits support, management effectiveness, right? Helping with performance management and hiring and coaching, and a range of other things as well, reporting and that sort of thing. So just more of what I think you're going to continue to see from HCM.
Yeah, and Pete, I think for those who might not be familiar with Slack, safe to say that's an equivalent to Teams, right? Teams chat, and
Yeah.
just a different platform that other companies use. So if you're not familiar with Slack, you could think about it as HiBob embedding that into Teams chat, only
Yeah.
using Slack.
Yeah, reminds me of of kind of like the Teams and Zoom thing, right? I mean, I think Slack is came up in a very tech side of the industry, and just very well beloved, and not as as I will say, forced upon you as maybe
Yeah,
Teams and Microsoft
there you
has
go.
been. So yeah,
There you go.
there's a love hate for Teams out there. Some people hate it, some people love it, but
Yeah.
all good, all
Hey,
good.
since we're in the
So
AI and the AI space, maybe we should go into
yeah,
the Workday announcement before I flip over to the more services related one that I have queued up for us.
yeah. Yeah, let me do this one real quick if you like.
Yeah, yeah.
So Workday obviously has, I think if you recall back to us talking about look, I go to a lot of their events, the Innovation Summit, the Workday Rising. Julie, you attend Rising. We've talked a good bit about how Workday sees themselves as an agent, right? Agentic platform of agents, right? And a big key part of that is being the rails, right? They talked about being enterprise rails and how important that is of controlling these solutions, the governance of these solutions, right? The data access, the systems access. So think now along that lines, and you can see, right, the new agent passport that
Hmm.
Workday is putting out here really lays right, neatly into that, and oversees and helps you test and verify that the agents touching your Workday solution, and third party, whether they're internal or third party built, have continuous monitoring and continuous controls, if you will, which we all love, right? We all
Yep.
need,
Yeah.
especially in our world, payroll benefits, all of it, right? We need good controls over our data and protection of what these agentic solutions and automations are actually doing. So, just makes a lot of sense when you think about what Workday's building from their enterprise Rails perspective. And yeah, just getting a lot more mature in this area, in that governance area, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And it really does underlie the whole idea of moving from a system of record to a system of agents and platforms, that all need orchestration and governance, an ecosystem play and not just product features. And I liken this, you might have announced a few of these as well. Besides Agent Passport, they've embedded some features and functionality into their AI developer tooling, for building and connecting the agents, and adaptive decision intelligence. So there's all these independent things that are kind of coming together to build out a pretty robust ecosystem,
Yeah.
that is more than just the products and features. So very cool. You can see it in action. It's moving fast.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's what people are going to need, right? You're going to need some sort of platform, some star command to make sure that you're monitoring all your robots, right, and all your people and all your assets. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's going to change a lot. So yeah, I think you need it. So I love what SaaS is really going to become, especially the HCMs and the ERPs. Okay,
yeah.
all right. What do you got, Julie? You got
Well,
something still in the HCM world, right?
yeah, I had one in HCM, and actually, this probably goes back a few weeks at least. And we talked about UKG at your event on the events episode that will come out right before this one. But a new thing crossed my path, and that is the acquisition by Argano of Ascend, who is a premier partner,
Mm,
one of the strong
yeah,
partners in the UKG ecosystem of services. And so Argano is a name I was less familiar with. And, as I was looking, their AI forward transformation consultancy, they just started being formed in 2020. Here we are, 5.5 years later. And this acquisition of Ascend is their 12th since being formed together. So they really are, pulling together a lot of things to be a leading UKG implementation and managed services partner across that ecosystem. It's just a little bit their specialty. And so it's more on the managed side of the house and kind of those types of partners than it is on purely building the tech stack. But interesting, and a name that you might see, elevated a little bit more and more as they focus on AI forward deployments and operationalizations, optimizations of UKG.
No, look, I think all the HCM ecosystems are really growing, right? I mean, there's more to digest now than ever, right? We just talked
Yeah.
about that, just the case of this show episode, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for both deployment of these things, optimization of these things, but also change management around the modern things that are coming out. So yeah, I love it. Good for
Yeah.
everybody. All the
Yeah.
ecosystems are growing. I'm starting to see some pop up even around things like Darwinbox, right?
Yeah.
Darwinbox is starting to get a lot of traction. They're starting to see some things. I'm starting to see some more Dayforce
Absolutely.
operations that are popping up. So yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
All right. I
The
think that wraps
ecosystem
up
gets
our.
richer.
Yeah. Right. I think we're going to
Yeah,
shift
yeah.
to another category. Am I right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I'm going to stay. I mean, I guess at this point, I would consider Paylocity to be an HCM. I think all the
Sure.
pays have kind of
Sure.
become HCM, so they've really upgraded. Now, I think the headline talks embedded, right? Embedded retirement, but embedded really in this case does not seem to be externally. They're not. They were a pioneer, really, I would say, in the HCMs and the pays, embedding their own payroll solution and time solutions outward. But in this case, it looks like what they've done is they've upgraded their Paylocity retirement powered by Vestwell. I'm not familiar with Vestwell, Julie. You may be in that 401k world. But yeah, just embedding their new solution into the Paylocity platform, really upgrading and essentially expanding the capabilities they have to offer for their clients. So not surprising.
Yeah, no, not surprising. Although I will say interesting because in the Ben admin with the HCM, the core space to play has always been health and welfare, right? And now
Yeah.
we're seeing, more touch points with retirement, which is more frequently a third party, but needs has a lot of touch points. And the same thing is happening with wellness, voluntary benefits, and those sorts of things. So as that ecosystem expands, we're seeing lots of different ways to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And this includes 401k and 403b plans. So, yeah, not just 401. I think I just said 401 in the beginning. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Moving on, maybe to a competitor or a peer there of Paylocity would be our friends over at ADP. And this one, Julie, I'm really excited about this. I think there's a few things we ought to talk about here.
Okay.
Look, compliance is a pain in the rear end. We've all known that on all sides of the ball, if you will, for HR, for payroll, for benefits. All things considered, it's rough out there. It's getting rougher, especially if you're a multi-state or multi-country employer. ADP has introduced something called ADP Smart Compliance, which solves some of those challenges. Quote, by routing compliance workflows through a single unified platform connecting HR, IT, and finance data. That data model then allows compliance-related information to be collected across all workflows and certainly helps you with managing that compliance. I think this is really cool, Julie. I love it. Regardless of where it comes from, what vendor it comes from. This idea that we can, get everybody on the same page, right? There's a lot of handoffs. We've talked about this before at Leaves. We've talked about it in various different processes that we've complained about, that there's a lot of handoff and it doesn't always happen in a silo by itself, singularly in HR. And so I think that is the spirit here, is starting to take a step forward of bringing that together. And I think there's another piece of this that I want to talk about too, but I want to pause there and just get your thoughts on this type of a product being available.
Yeah, sure. And I think for me, the devil is sometimes in the details. I'm always interested to know,
Yeah.
which of the ADP platforms and at which size and scale Smart Compliance is interacting. And knowing ADP, it's probably quite broadly, whether you're Workforce Now user, Lyric, or Global View or something else. But I have to tell you, I haven't exactly sorted out how that works and whether or not there's some standalone
Yep.
capabilities with that. So those are the first things that, that cross my mind as things that I haven't seen enough to really be able to say exactly how and where that's plugging in. But anytime ADP
Yeah.
is touching compliance, folks are happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, just the idea that you can unify your data and workflow together,
Yeah.
that's a huge step forward, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just a big groundbreaking piece of if groundbreaking is the right word. I mean, just a massive step forward for that. So I love it. Now, here's another thing I want to talk about, because when I've talked about, like, anytime I've had a million conversations privately and publicly about the future of payroll and compliance and things. One of the things that always comes up that I say is it doesn't matter if we got every employer in the world at the most advanced and innovative level. if the government agencies don't step up and do the same thing, it all kind of doesn't matter, right? It's like just sort of yelling down a hallway. If we get the government entities involved in that and we have more of an electronic and digital flow to them and back and forth, I think we would have the future could really come to life, right?
Yeah.
So I love that there is a mention of that. Now, no, I don't think ADP is saying in any way that they're solving
Right.
all of
That
this
they right.
tomorrow. And look, I'm sure you have to know ADP has lobbyists or lobbies with the government to help work on some of these things. I know you've seen them probably in press releases where they've helped encourage the government to advance certain things in certain places. But with their influence, I think they are one of the organizations that can help get some of that
Absolutely.
sort of government plumbing advanced in a way that helps us automate a little bit more. So there's
Right.
another step to this, I think, that has to happen. And I like that I see that in there.
For
So,
sure. I'm sure we'll be
yeah.
talking more about that as things move forward.
Yeah, compliance is getting better, getting easier. So, Julie, I thought this was interesting. Maybe staying in this little benefits world. Walmart, OnePay has joined the Workday
Yes.
wellness ecosystem. That's very interesting. Very commercial slant to that, but also a earned wage access kind of a financial wellness sort of slant to this as well. If you guys don't recall, I don't know if people recall this. I didn't study them greatly when it happened, but I do know that Walmart created one. I don't remember what they called it. Maybe it was like One Work or something, One Workforce or something back in the day. They created something internally for employees to help with an earned wage access kind of a solution. And then later they bought Even, which was one of the main probably up and coming players in earned wage access and financial wellness in the space. You might have seen them at HR Tech. I've met them there a few times. I think I had dinner once with their leadership team. They then got together with Walmart, and I think Walmart utilized all of those pieces that they built, pieces that they bought to ultimately create this OnePay solution. And now it's inside of the Walmart or the Workday. And I believe, Julie, I don't know
I,
if Walmart is a Workday core HR user or not. I
yes.
thought they were SAP.
Well, actually, I was involved.
I can't remember.
I did some advisory work with them as they were purchasing and
Yeah.
transitioning to Workday.
Oh, they
So
did go to Workday.
yes, several
Okay.
years ago, pre-COVID.
Very cool.
And in fact, think about it. I mean,
So
like
that makes a lot of
Walmart is
sense
the
then.
size of a small nation, right? Actually, not even a small nation, a
Yeah.
medium to large size nation. So to me, and I think you also know I do have quite a bit to do with kind of wellness and where that's headed,
Yeah.
and some of the other solutions. I would say, this is cool. This is really cool just because of how many lives it has the potential to touch. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
make something an everyday thing, then doing things with Walmart and their OnePay system is certainly a good way to go. And
Yeah.
in the wellness space, we're just going to be seeing and talking so much more about that, I believe, with Workday Wellness. They're building that ecosystem. There's probably no less than 20 partners, today that are kind of committed and building in that space. And early leaders on the financial side, like Benepass and Chime, are others that are, kind of hitting that financial space. And so come this fall, I know we're going to be talking a lot more about Workday Wellness and how that's actually has the potential to impact those companies that do use Workday today and their
Yeah.
ecosystem. So lots more to come on that.
Yeah. I think we're going to see more of this, right? Especially in the AI world. But I mean, look, this is a commercial play as much as it is a non-commercial, an employer play, I'm sure, for Walmart.
No, for sure.
And yeah, very cool to see. It's really interesting. And I think it's cool that we're seeing some of these employer-built solutions. I know Facebook has some. I know we've talked about
Mhm,
Spotify
mhm.
having some being brought to market to commercially I'm sure monetize, but support others. And I think that you're going to see more of this probably with AI, especially with the forward deployed engineers that many we've
Absolutely.
talked about the HCMs are using. I think you're going to see a lot of co-innovations that come together. So maybe this is something kind of along that lines. But
Yeah.
okay,
Okay. Moving on.
all right, let's move along here. Let's talk globalization partners for a second. Shout out to them, always pushing the pace. This time again on AI, they had a big announcement. I believe they unveiled this right ahead of SHRM, and then talked about it at SHRM. But basically, have agentified, if you will, their platform right from end to end. So as you can imagine, Julie, I think we've talked about how global EOR is getting a bit more self-serve. It started to kind of lean that way during the pandemic, and then it's gradually gotten that way when you think about what AI and automation have done, right? The ability to research, plan, maybe contract, maybe hire, onboard, all of that really absent a human is possible now
Yeah.
in the EOR world. We've seen that from a lot of the vendors.
And folks,
So
GP is the one that's associated with GIA, right?
that's
That
right,
we've talked about in
GPG.
the
Yeah,
past. So
very
if people are trying to, just
yes,
kind of place other conversations we've had about GP and that, they're developed in this space, we've talked about GIA quite a bit in the past.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, GPGIA is the what do they call it? A lawyer in your pocket, having a lawyer in your pocket, and an HRBP. Very much something that's open to all of their, really to any organization can license that. But but now have identified their global employment platform. So really, just along the lines of what I think you're going to see more of, right? More automation here, more automated compliance monitoring, reporting. So end to end capabilities here with agents, and just right in line with what I think the future is going to look like and what I think we should be seeing from these vendors. So yeah,
Right.
good stuff there coming out.
Awesome.
So Julie, I got another staying in the EOR lane. Went to another event. We didn't mention this in the event side, so because I thought maybe it'd be good to do it over here on the product side, but I want to get your thoughts on this. So I went to the Multiplier Beyond Borders event in London. Was quite an interesting event. I went last year in New York. I don't know if you recall that. They had one where they did a little analyst day, and then had
Okay.
a customer event where they did some presentations and things. But yeah, one of the things I thought was pretty cool about this one is, Multiplier really talked about, they got this new point of view, I guess you could say, on their value proposition as being an exchange, right? A global exchange. And not so much trying to be, if you look across the market, we've talked about this a lot, Julie. Many of the EORs have turned into HCM tech platforms, right?
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
Deel, living the Deel speed mantra out there like a rabbit, running fast. And
Speed of
you've
light.
got, Remote and Rippling running right behind them, trying to copy everything they do. But you've got multipliers saying, hey, we don't want to be all of those things. We want to maintain keep the main thing, as I like to say. And EOR is that main thing for them. Global payroll, of course, comes with that. And global payments certainly are a part of that, especially the future, right? So I thought it was pretty cool, right? It was refreshing to hear them kind of have a different point of view, a different stance, and fundamentally talk differently than what all of their peers are doing. So think of them, Multiplier wants to be thought of as a global exchange for work, right? The infrastructure, the countries, the legal entities, in their case, 150 entities owned and operated by their internal um, organization, and fundamentally a compliance engine and payments engine to help you reach those destinations that you're trying to reach out to. So lots going on over at Multiplier. I thought it was a great event, a lot of great conversations. I think you're going to see a lot more coming from them on that FX side, that payment side. I think you're going to see them building out more of that global payroll capability,
Mhm.
and certainly more intelligence and automation across all of that is to come. So
Yeah.
a refreshing update in the EOR space that's not more of the same. So kudos to Multiplier on focus on what they're good at.
Yeah. And great
Yeah,
contrast to some of the things that we've been announcing from others about what they are doing, right? Recruiting PEO, HCM, kind of where they're headed. So awesome.
yeah,
It's nice to
yeah.
nice to
Good
see a
stuff.
different take and see where that leads, right?
Absolutely. All right, let's move on into global payroll. Our friends over at Payslip, longtime client of mine, just got some new funding. Shout out to
Yeah. Congrats.
Fidelma and AFA over there at at Payslip. So with that new funding, as you can imagine, they're going to be doing a lot more work over on their platform and their AI. And proud of them to see. I didn't realize these numbers. I don't know if I hadn't asked in a while. 1.3 million monthly pay slips across 125 countries, and 5 billion in payroll payments now coming from Payslip through their payroll control platform. So congrats to the ladies and the team over at Payslip. That's a good one.
Yeah. Hey,
Good to see them leveling up.
new funding begets growth, and when you're growing, you get more new funding, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
congrats.
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And then I don't know, Julie, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit. Datascale and Strada got together. I feel very confident I had something to do with those two getting together. I'm pretty sure I nagged Frank Leisner about seeing it when it first came out. But
Well, we
yeah, congrats to Jerome and team.
Yeah, we've both been a little bit of nudges maybe in this space. So I was happy to see this as well. For folks that haven't heard, we've got an episode that we did a while back with Jerome from Datascaler that it talks a lot more about what that value proposition is. And it's about the connective tissue, right? That connects local payroll country details to, the kind of middle the engine that has all the information together. And so I'm just super excited and happy to see this. and any that have teamed up with Datascaler, because I think the big impediment out there between organizations are too many solutions believe that there's a lot of secret sauce in the things that they've built out in integrations, or unwilling to think about how they might do integrations differently because it drives change request revenue, right? And so, new
Yeah.
integration comes with new price tag. And
Yeah.
I think everything about Jerome's approach, helps organizations think about that dramatically differently. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
see these two work together.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm excited to see data scale popping up in more of
Yes,
the global payroll world. So I think you'll see more of that coming soon. So yeah,
absolutely.
let's staying in the global payroll lane. Let's talk CloudPay. CloudPay's
Okay.
new global payroll efficiency index for 2026 is out. Now, this is not just another complexity report. I had a bit to do with this when it launched about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe five. Back in the day, shout out to David Barrick, the
Hmm.
former CMO there. We did a lot of work together. But yeah, I think you should check it out, Julie. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I always like the way they lay things out and talk some of the KPIs in here. Again, it's not just rankings of where it's complicated, where it's not. It's more about looking at various different things like the time cycles, transactions and incidents per 1,000, things like that. So
Yeah.
just a good benchmark by country and maybe region for those of you who are interested in that,
Yeah.
and getting a look at where you feel like your opportunities might lie in those countries. So
Yeah, thanks.
yeah,
And the illusion you made about where countries are more complex and not, I think, is another well known payroll complexity type of a report. As you say, it's very different, but the thing that Strata puts out regularly, right? And this having just a very different angle and a different bent to it, and a great piece of research.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I always appreciate those. And there's several now, right? What do we have?
Yeah,
Like TMF, I think does one. There's pretty long. The one over at Strata is quite long. I think it might
that's
be the
right.
oldest. So
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
is the longest standing. Yeah, so there's a few out
yeah,
there, and they all have their own little angle and bent. But
yeah.
check out the CloudBay one. I haven't seen the most recent findings, so I'm excited to search for it and dig in.
Yeah, the PEI, the Payroll Efficiency Index. Yeah, check that out.
Excellent.
All right, let's shift over to still kind of EOR-ish, but a bit global payroll here. We're going to talk remote for a moment.
All right.
Remote, I thought it was interesting. They put out an article in TechCrunch, right, talking about their new remote MCP, which is, again, a model context protocol allowing for you to connect agents to other solutions and have external workflows back and forth to your HCM or other key systems. So very much in line with what we're hearing and seeing all the HCMs doing. Many of these solutions like Remote and Deel and Rippling that are technically building HCMs, global HCMs, are really falling in line with that. But what I thought was interesting to see, though, is that they mentioned passing 300 million in ARR, but with a 50% revenue per employee increase due to AI adoption. So I guess you could say they are living the drinking the Kool-Aid and fundamentally leveraging AI themselves to apparently really drive some efficiencies there too. So hopefully, their clients will get that as well.
Yeah, and look, like for those of you, especially practitioners that just try to keep up with the terminology, this is the second time in this news release that we've talked about MCP, model context protocol. So that's probably going to become a thing, right, along with the WCM terminology that we talked about a little earlier, right? So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I think we're going to see more new categories. Yeah, no MCP, FDE, all that
yeah,
stuff. Right?
FDE.
You're
There's
going to
another one that came
more.
up last.
You're going to hear more of that with AI. But yeah, new categories coming. I think you could see that happening. Totally, totally.
Yeah,
All right, so let's stay in the EOR space, a global HR space with Deel. Deel launched a new stablecoin wallet, which I think is really on par with what you find happening around the world, right? Stablecoins are popping up everywhere. I've talked about the stablecoin over at PayPal. There are many other different versions of that, all tethered to the US dollar, all stabilized by the US dollar. And I think fundamentally the future of money movement, probably the future of health, wealth, and retirement too. When you think about the speed of being able to put money into accounts and move it to different things, I think that's what you're going to be seeing more of here. So very cool. I think you'll probably see more of the EORs probably follow suit as well, especially the big ones with the HCM platforms.
yeah,
Um, Very
yeah.
likely to do the same.
Well, wouldn't be a news
Yeah.
episode without those guys coming up with something,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, deal speed is a real thing. I've talked about that. They've always got their foot on the pedal. And yeah, and they just did the big deal, I think it was event. I don't think there was any products that came out of that, but we'll find out, I'm sure. The other thing I thought was pretty cool, Julie, they announced they are now on the sleeve, the kit, the uniform, if you will, of the Arsenal Football Club over in the UK. I think that's pretty cool. Arsenal's a big team, and being on that sleeve is pretty neat. I saw it actually. I was over. I think I was in London. Yeah, I've been so many places lately.
Yeah.
I was in London and actually saw some of those in the store. So I think I've always talked about this. I think, when you've got a Super Bowl commercial, when you've got a golf shirt, a golfer with their, Workday or Oracle or whatever on a shirt, I think it's cool,
Well,
right? It's
and
good for the HR
talk
world.
about great timing. I mean, I have a family that's relatively into FIFA, and so that and the Arsenal is a well known team. So awesome
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
that, and very timely given all the to do about the FIFA
Yeah.
games right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Cool.
And shout out to Alex, the founder of Deel. I know he's a big PSG fan. Paris, was it Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah.
So I asked him, I
Oh
tweeted
no,
to him,
now
I
we
said,
have to
hey,
worry about whose
how
teams are
soon?
favored.
Yeah, how soon are you going to get on the front of the PSG kit? So we
Okay.
don't. No answer on that yet. But hey, you never know. You never know.
You got
Somebody will
you
do it.
gotta you gotta poke and see if you can get a reaction out of somebody
Yeah,
all the time,
I
don't you,
love it.
Pete?
I love it though. EOR though on a kit. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? I remember when.
Yeah.
Do you remember when it was either Ultimate? It was before they were together. I think it was Ultimate was on the Heat jersey
Yeah.
for a while, or on the floor or something. I thought that was pretty cool. That was kind of the beginning of HR tech sort of
Hey,
getting really mainstream. So
yeah, and
it's
Super
good
Bowl
stuff.
commercials, you don't find anything more witty
Yeah,
than that, right? Just thinking about the dollars it takes
yeah.
to make that happen.
I know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Papaya, right? Papaya had
Yeah.
the Super Bowl commercial.
Exactly.
So, but how cool is that? Global payroll at the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's round this out with one more in
Okay.
this lane, Julie, in this EOR payments world. Payoneer, right? Our good friends who bought Scott. They bought our friends over at D. Coakley's company over Boundless,
Mhm,
right? Brought
boundless,
those
yeah.
together underneath their global payments capability. Has been acquired by Nuvei. Nuvei is fundamentally a POS, right? Think of it as your when you go into a restaurant or you go into a retailer, you've got to pay your bill. There's a POS system there that is fundamentally operating their revenues in and out. Basically, you imagine now you've got POS pairing up with global payments and global payroll and small business, presumably cross-border employment capabilities. You can see where this is heading. Reminds me a lot of what we heard when the Bitwage, right, got acquired
Mhm.
by a bigger financial services organization that is bringing that into a broader play here for fintech. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very
Well,
interesting. We've
here's
seen
what
some of this in the U.S. They haven't seen it globally yet. So,
Here's what I think is really interesting about that, and
yeah,
that is, what does that do from an industry alignment, right? A lot of times this point of service is very industry driven, and HR tech hasn't necessarily, it's been really broadly cross industries, the way that HR
yeah,
operates. And so when these things happen, I always wonder, how that impacts the broader market for the acquiring company versus kind of puts
yeah,
them in a specialist role in the industries of the parent. So we
yeah,
might
yeah.
see a lot more of that. There are some industry specific things that go on, and it could be that's the faster way to growth sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and making a platform, right? Having more than just one hand, being a hammer looking for a nail, you can have a lot of solutions to offer. But notice how much we talked payments up and down this, and
Yeah.
some of it, much of it was not primary, right? It just goes to show you the value right now of digital payments, digital money movement, and more importantly, cross-border FX. I think you're going to hear that story coming, in more and more places. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
But all
All
right,
right. Well,
Julie,
we made
anything else
it.
on your end?
No,
Yeah.
no, I tried to embed them along the way, and I think we weren't sure if we were going to make it in kind of our usual amount of time, but it looks like we did.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we'll be back soon with more. As always, we ask that you subscribe, like, share, comment. Anything helps. And thank you so much to GP, OneSource Virtual, and Zoho for powering us ad free. We really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll be back with more very, very soon.